Hi, Tiago. First of all, thanks for joining us today, taking part in this video series that we're putting together looking at agentic AI and AI agents. I'll expand a little bit more in a minute as to the direction that we're going to take. But as I say, just wanted to welcome you and thank you for taking part of this. How are things for you guys?
Good. We're doing very well. And thank you, Trevor, for the invitation, because the topic is, as you can imagine, quite relevant for HiJiffy. So I think that we have a lot to add to the table. It's our bread and butter. It's our day-to-day. So I hope that I can bring value to whoever is going to watch this, is watching this or hearing it. So
No, I have no doubts that that will be the case. And I think what we're hoping to do as well through this conversation, there's been a lot written. I mean, it was all Chat GPT 18 months, 2 years ago, and the generative AI. Now it's all AI agents, agentic AI. That seems to be the theme for 2025. I'm sure you've heard it rumbling on a little bit, but it seems to have hit the mainstream the beginning of this year. But what I've noticed is that the vast majority of what is being written or discussed seems to be very much focused on how it will impact travelers, the way people go about booking, and hotels. But not a lot seems to have actually been focused in terms of how this technology will impact on the hotel technology sector and hotel tech providers like you guys at HiJiffy. So we wanted to take that angle and look at kind of opportunities, threats, little bit of future gazing, how we think this may develop, and kind of bring that conversation to the table. So let's get started. Probably always good to start with the positives. What opportunities do you feel AI agents and the broader agentic AI will bring to hotel tech providers?
sure. Um, Going a little bit back, Trevor, what you were
Yeah,
mentioning.
go for it.
Uh, first of all, I think that it's relevant now to try identify from all this buzz of what really hotels can take in terms of ROI, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that most of us need to be aware of that this is not only happening within the hotel industry, it's happening within various industries. At HiJiffy, we have right now a project in place of actually trying to implement this agentic AI functionalities within cross teams, and how can we leverage on that on us being more efficient,
Got you in-house, yeah.
making people at HiJiffy, making it easier
Yeah,
for
yeah.
people work at HiJiffy to reach their targets and reach their goals. So I think that all the companies, or most of the companies within the hotel industry or outside the hotel industry, should have a plan or should have a roadmap for this 6 to 12 months of what they're gonna be doing, because it's gonna be the new status quo. I
Yeah.
mean, or people adapt, or they're going to be less competitive. I'm not in the game of people like companies will disappear, they will not be here anymore. I'm not in that area, but I'm sure that companies will be less competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to opportunities within the hotel industry, we already see some things in place. Obviously, around guest support and having AI agents that handle more than 80% of the questions from pre-stay, in-stay, post-stay across multiple channels. That's something that has been implemented. HiJiffy and other vendors from this past 4 or 5 years quite intensively.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, I would like to bring another examples that I've been seeing in the industry working quite well, as for example, the part of upselling, of smarter upselling, depending on what part of the guest journey the guest is, any action in terms of the guest being happy and happy, or any trend of being a repetitive guest. So all this information that can be used to be reactive and proactive in terms of upselling. And
Yep.
the same thing around reputation management.
Okay.
The same
Yeah.
thing
Good
here
point.
of bad reviews and auto replies already using AI that are quite empathic and reply immediately to these bad reviews to try and transform them into potential future happy guests.
Yeah.
So that's something that we already see in place. I think that there is a lot to be done yet,
Hmm.
and my way of seeing it, or at least at HiJiffy, our vision of the founders, is that right now most of these technologies are very, very reactive, and
Yep.
we need to change them to be more proactive. And what I mentioned is that the technology is very ready every time a guest wants to interact with it.
Hmm.
It's very efficient right now.
Yep.
But right now, what hoteliers are looking for, and especially probably smaller chains and independent hotels, is I don't have time to plan all the campaigns throughout my guest journey, or all
Yep.
the touch points that I want to do without my guest journey. So how can these tools help me of actually interacting with
Gotcha.
those guests?
Yep.
And I think that's the part that I think that needs to change. That is, companies, and companies such as HiJiffy too, need to start giving insights to hoteliers for them to better personalize their touch points within their guest journey with
Yep.
more data. And that idea that we all have in the industry of having a very, very personalized guest experience.
Yeah,
When
you
I
hear
say
that
a
a
very
lot.
personalized guest experience, unique per guest, right?
Yep. Yep.
Then you need to take into consideration these insights and then put it into autopilot, and it just fires whatever the AI model thinks, or hybrids where you take a decision before it actually fires.
Understood.
So that's where I see this going.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think we've spoken a lot, or a lot has been written about personalization, and a lot of people question what that actually means. And to your point there, it's about really trying to get down and granular to use all the information that you've had about that individual that has interacted with you in whichever way, shape, or form, and use all of that to make it a genuinely personalized piece of communication, offering, campaign, whatever it may be, directly to that individual based on all the information that you've garnered, all that you've garnered so far, rather than it just seeming to be grouping that individual into a bucket or a segment which is defined as personalization, but it's not really true personalization in that sense. So no, that makes a lot of sense. Flipping the coin a little, and we can see there's things to be done, but there are opportunities there. From a threats perspective, and again, I think unless you're seeing what this is all about this agentic AI and AI agents, people maybe still are getting their head around that. But you guys, as you say, are very much at the forefront of it, utilizing it internally. But as a hotel tech developer, what threats does this technology have to you guys as a starting point? Because it could be seen as a competitive piece of technology as well. So what are your thoughts on that?
Completely. Once again, going from specific to general,
Hmm.
and jumping to general, I think that all technologies nowadays, tech companies, need to take in consideration that whatever you did in the past 5 years, it's going to take way less time for a new company to do it.
Yeah.
With AI helping, and things that are as basic as using ChatGPT to do an integration through APIs. At HiJiffy, we're already doing that, and it takes way less time.
Wow.
So we need to take that in consideration. That
Hmm.
right now, a new company entering into the market will take way less time than we did to reach to the point that we are now.
Yep.
So in theory, yes, that's definitely a threat. But I think that something that is very, very important to mention is that in terms of theory of building things and executing things, yes, things are going to be way faster. But at the same time, I don't feel that's the only thing that is needed within the vertical of working with hotels and hotel tech.
Hmm.
There's something that I find very, very important, that is being integrated and having access to data.
Yep.
Not only the data that you already have from the properties and the hotels that you're working with, but additionally, the data that you're collecting from the ecosystem.
Yep.
And by the ecosystem, I mentioned on connections to the property management system, booking engine, CRM, upselling, etc. I love to say, and most of team members at HiJiffy know, that I'm a very, very data-oriented person. So I love to say that data is king, because it makes us take decisions faster.
Yes.
As an example that is outside of this, even in terms of our go-to-market or deciding what countries or what markets does HiJiffy want to target, having our CRM cleaner and with more data makes us make decisions that are way more correct than we did in the past, where we were like blind, right? So the same thing happens within the hotel industry with dealing with the communication with guests. That is, we have a lot of data that, one, helps us and helped us actually to launch our new AI model. So the AI model with the machine learning that we already have helps us improve it way better and faster, because we already have a lot of interactions. Okay. But additionally, on this personalized guest experience that I was mentioning too, you need to be integrated and to have data, and you can't survive on version 1.0 of that integration. You need more solid integrations and more deep integrations with your partners, so that you can actually deliver that personalized guest experience that I was mentioning. So for sure, there's less barriers in the entrance, and I would say that in theory, yes, there's a threat. But on the other hand, I think that if we execute well and we do well in terms of data, we can then go from this aspect of a lot of newcomers are still looking into being reactive, and we want really to be proactive and going through that path.
That makes sense. We've seen a lot in the last number of years, new companies coming into the hotel technology space. There was a lot of it was around the PMS, then we've seen the RMS, then we've seen messaging solutions, a variety of technology as the demands have come. Do you envisage a scenario where we would see either existing agentic AI businesses starting to target the hotel industry? So rather than having individual solutions that talk to each other through APIs and that interconnectivity, do you think there would be existing agentic AI businesses, or maybe even new agentic AI businesses that target the hotel industry, that then look at building agents, working with hotels, and taking, to your point, as being a core data aficionado, looking at the data as the core and then building on top of it? What's your take on that?
One thing that I feel is that we do have non-verticalized softwares. When I mention non-verticalized softwares, is that they work multi-industry, right? They don't work only with hotels that are targeting actively the hotel industry or the travel industry as a whole.
Yeah. So you could have like a Salesforce or somebody like that.
Exactly.
For instance,
that would be exactly the example that I would give. That would be Salesforce, that we've been seeing in a lot of our top clients or our bigger clients, them using Salesforce as an all-in-one or the main source of truth for them, and having that Salesforce. And then, Trevor, the question is, why do you just mentioned that you have your bigger clients using Salesforce and they're still your clients, right? That's the question. And I went through that process, and I did it to a lot of our clients. So of like, why Salesforce? What's happening here? Why us? Why do you maintain us, etc. Because Salesforce actually has this kind of technology that we're talking about. They call it Einstein. And why maintain us? And it's all about being verticalized to the hospitality industry. This brings various advantages. First of all, the part of the training of the chatbot itself or the agent itself, you need to train it from the scratch. I mean, it doesn't understand, or it doesn't know the questions such as what time is the check-in, it's associated with the check-in. You need to hire a consultant to do that work with you, and there's a learning curve that you need to go through that clients right now with the technology like HiJiffy are already in a step way ahead in terms of the learning curve. And then with Salesforce, they'll have to start from the very beginning. And additionally, they need to continue feeding it. It's something that HiJiffy does as a whole. When we train our agent, we have one single agent for all our clients. We don't train a specific hotel. Okay, so then there's nuances and for sure specific questions per hotels, but the majority of it's trained as a whole.
I mean, so 85% is probably going to be fairly generic across most hotels, isn't it?
Yes, yes. A lot of some hoteliers have a very, very unique hotel. Sometimes don't believe in this, but unfortunately or fortunately for us, yes. I think we wouldn't be here if that wouldn't be the case. We would be more of an agency and not a tech company. That's one point. The other point is, as I mentioned before, when we started the call, that is being within the ecosystem and having those integrations. Probably you're already familiar with this, Trevor, but we have a lot of hotels that have 10, 15 tech providers. And all these tech providers verticalized to the hospitality industry. And I'll just give you quick examples. The things such as basics that are the booking engine and the PMS, right? That needs an integration with Salesforce. So a consultant needs to make that happen. And then we have other parts of the guest journey that are, for example, the online check-in, the upselling, review platforms, etc., etc. Then it's not only the part of execution and having the integration, but how you deal with it and how do you use that information, as I was mentioning, to be proactive, first of all. So creating that model of being proactive. And additionally, how are you using, in the case of HiJiffy, when you're reactive too. So having the two things of, for example, an online check-in link or that is dynamic, or an upselling link that is dynamic, all of that happening and converting, then it means that you're already bringing a very strong ROI to your clients, and they are always afraid of like, okay, this is working, this is working great. Why should I move it?
And it takes them a while to do the adoption, as has been spoken about a lot of times with hotel companies taking a while to invest. But once that almost works to an advantage, once they have made that commitment and made that decision and integrated and embedded it, the likelihood of them swapping out or going to something completely new is maybe less likely. No, that makes
completely. And adding on top of that, as I mentioned, we're just talking here about bigger chains. Because when we talk about smaller chains or independent hotels, a solution such as the example that we gave, Salesforce, is way too big in terms of budget, in terms of complexity for their day-to-day needs.
It's interesting you bring up that comparison, because that was something I wanted to ask you, between the bigger brands, the larger management companies, and then the smaller groups and independent hotels. We've been seeing that one of the major groups, I won't mention which one for the moment, there's been a lot of recruitment going on into their AI and data teams. I also read recently that another pretty large group was developing its own in-house technology for one of the core pieces that you referred to earlier. And I was wondering, and again, this future looking, will we start to see a potential divide between the major brands and the major management companies starting to really focus on having a more consolidated, clean data platform, and then building on top of that themselves? And then you've got the smaller groups or the independent hotels that obviously won't have the resources or the budgets for that, and they will be leaning more into having those ready-made solutions that are already out on the market. Do you see that happening? Because I was having a conversation the other day with and we happen to be talking about McKinsey's, Deloitte, a number of management companies, and they're already working with corporates to be going down this potential route. So it doesn't seem a massive leap to consider that could be the divide that we potentially start to see. Not that it's a pro or con, just an observation, really. What are your thoughts on that?
Completely. My thoughts is that it's a daily headache for our sales team, to be honest, because it's quite frustrating a lot of the times for them and for me for sure. Is that a lot of times we speak with these big groups or sometimes even brands, and obviously there's a lot of decision making. I don't want to go and bore you with
No.
sales
I get that.
process.
Yeah,
But there's a lot
yeah.
of decision makers too. So there's a lot of people deciding, and there's always two or three people that could block you within a sales process like HiJiffy. And one thing that frustrates us quite a lot, and being on the ground and giving you instant feedback of whoever is on the ground, is that you talk with them. They mention that they have this big project and that they're into it, and they have a roadmap, and there is a date to be launched. And a lot of the times what happens is that they end up or postponing it,
Right.
or not giving it priority. And I think that's the big advantage of actually working with a company that is 100% focused on that breathes that every day,
Yep.
is that that's our bread and butter. That's what we do. So we'll always be able to deliver faster than them doing internally. I'm trying to understand the problem that we work every day,
Yeah.
and that we've been working for 8-9 years on it. So that's basically the major advantages of having a company that is specialized on something delivering, is that we'll make it happen, and we'll make it happen faster.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically. But one thing that I wanted to add that just came up to my mind when you were mentioning this is that if you think about most of the hotel techs that you know, companies, at least that I know, most of the companies, their client database, or I would say roughly like 70-80% of their client database, it's not big brands or big hotel chains. We are all working on giving the possibility of the smaller independent hotels to have access to technology that can help them fight against.
You're trying to level the playing field, aren't you?
Exactly. So that's definitely something that we are all working towards, and a lot of us end up working with big brands and big chains. I mean, last week we just closed the biggest chain in Dubai, for example. So a lot of us work on this kind of enterprise accounts, and HiJiffy does that too. We have various chains with more than 100 hotels, but the bread and butter of this hotel tech continues to be independent hotels and smaller chains that are more agile or faster taking decisions or faster moving forwards with things.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And congratulations on that big client. That's a nice one to get. Quick question. And you talk about it's interesting. And again, I don't want to labor this divide because we're not trying to create a divide. It's just looking at where different resources sit when you are working with major brands, major groups, or then you're talking with the smaller groups or the independent properties. Because I could envisage that I could be, from a hotel side, sitting there reading all about this, hearing that this is the way to go, get your data right, build these AI agents on top. It sounds fun. It sounds in-house. It sounds like it's what I should be doing. I might have investors. I might have owners that are throwing this at me as well. But there appear to me to be some obvious challenges that hoteliers may not be aware of in relation to the data specifically, that are important to have in mind if you're even contemplating going down this development of AI agents that are going to be accessing that data. Now, I've got some points here to throw out, but I'd be interested in getting your thoughts, because this is what you're having to juggle with. You're utilizing data sources. You're having to be right across it in terms of numerous issues that you're having to deal with and consider. So what would you say are some of the biggest issues that hoteliers may not be aware of that they would have to deal with from a data perspective if they were to go down an agentic or AI agent path?
Great question. And first thing that comes to our mind at HiJiffy is always the same. It's around content. That is, if you want agents, chatbots to reply the right thing to the guests, you need to make sure that the information where the chatbot gets that information from, is valid and it has all the information that is needed. And it's something that, to be honest, I find it fascinating that is within the hotel industry. It seems, and for me, it seems that there is space for hotel tech in that specific space. That is organization of the content, of making it available. Because if you think about it, obviously you'll have more and more of this AI companies in different parts of the guest journey that will be important. But before that, just going back, you have OTAs that you distribute content to all the time. And then you need to adapt and make a different model where the content that you have on Booking.com or Expedia is completely different to a content that you want to have on an AI agent. So not the same. The content that you have on Booking.com or Expedia, it's a potential guest. He's not with you and he's not in stay. This part of having the content right, and in terms of process internal, because then obviously, Trevor, the technology can always help you. But if you don't have a well-defined internal process within especially when we talk about chains of something changes, or the hotel one from 100 hotels decided to change breakfast starting from 7:30 to 8:30. There needs to be an internal process that for headquarters or whoever is managing it, this information goes easily. And I think the technology can help for sure. And in that aspect, implementing tech on a content management system that centralizes is fundamental. But as always, if there is not a well-defined process, this data will not go by and then feeds all the other technologies.
That makes a lot of sense. And I guess what you're driving back to there is I mean, maybe to consolidate it down to one word is hard, but I look at it as trust. That if I'm asking it to do something, I've got to trust it that it's going to do the right thing that I want it to do, and that it will do it consistently, and that if any changes that I make, to your point about the processes, I have a process that if I am making a change, that change is followed through. So going forward, I can trust that that is going to be picked up and used and adopted appropriately. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And adding to that, Trevor, that you just mentioned, it's fundamental that it's centralized in some way, because you'll always forget of one of the platforms where you have your content being sent to changing that. So if you have multiple platforms that you need to change, there's always one that you'll forget or multiple that you're forgetting.
Yeah, it's like you need a core and a way that this information goes here, this information goes here, this bit goes here, but you start from from a single source.
Exactly. So you change it in one place. I think that the AI models can help a lot to identifying what content is missing. Because, for example, at HiJiffy, every time a guest makes a question and we don't have content, we give reports to the hotel mentioning, okay, we don't have information about this. So AI models can help, but there's a need of someone within the independent hotel or a chain to have this project of like, I'm the owner of this, and this is the process, and I'm sure 100% sure no one is in life, but I'm sure that we're doing all our best to have always the content updated, and then it will be way easier to implement solutions like HiJiffy and other AI agents, it will be way easier because you already have all the information. And from now on, for example, when we launched last week Applesia 3, already opening that door, that is, you can have the content whatever way you want it organized. There's no need of a frequently asked question structure, specific structure that you need. Okay, I have my content organized this way. Now I need to adapt to HiJiffy's way.
Got you. Yeah, it could just
And
now
a
go
lot
in and
of
take the content.
Exactly. And a lot of other companies are going like us,
Yeah.
so it will be way easier to implement. And at the end, I think that what will all this agentic AI solutions will help is within the guest journey, and within the guest journey, from booking to checkout, it's all about questions, doubts that guests have. So it's all about delivering content. It's all about giving the right answer.
You spoke earlier about for it to really evolve, and I'm paraphrasing probably incorrectly, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. And you weren't saying it has to get to personalization, but true personalization. But that's the direction. That's a positive journey it could go on. One of the questions I then have are broader issues outside of the hotel and outside of the tech provider. I'm looking here at things like governments, and particularly something like GDPR and data compliance. Because to me, again, if I'm sitting there as a hotelier and I'm thinking, wow, I want to use my data, I want to do something productive, I want to go down these, well, I need to know how these agents are going to be using this data, and am I compliant in the way that it's going to be done? I mean, is that just me thinking of a threat, or is that something that is a genuine issue that you guys have to face regularly?
It is. And unfortunately, in 2025, I think one of the main topics within technology is security too, right? So
well, that was the other one I had here as well. Yeah. So if you want to take both of those, definitely.
That's a major topic. Unfortunately, one of our co-founders, CTO Jose, sleeps bad a lot of days with always adding layers on top of security, because it's a very hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of things happening faster, and it's a major sector right now in terms of security. But going for your question, so in terms of GDPR, for example, it's very important that hoteliers understand the difference. That is, there's a major difference between, is it a guest or it's not a guest?
Yep.
Okay, because then in terms of GDPR, it makes a massive difference. And then understanding and putting within being a guest, who's a guest? A guest is someone that booked, hasn't checked in, or didn't check out. Okay, so basically a guest booked and didn't check out. Let's summarize it this way.
Yeah.
A non-guest is someone that goes to my website, went through the booking engine, but ended up not booking, or you already checked out.
Yeah.
And GDPR, in terms of standards, see this in completely different ways. Right. So basically, if it's a guest, someone that booked, you can always have an agent or a virtual concierge, let's call it that way, as a service, that you offer, as you offer like a butler in the hotel or someone in the front desk. It's part of the service and part of the experience that you're giving to your guests, taking consideration his booking. If it's a person, and a lot of times hoteliers ask us things such as, okay, can I actually reach out using WhatsApp or SMS to all guests that stayed with us in the past year? The answer is yes and no. Yes, if you asked, if you requested their authorization for that, and you have some kind of form or some kind of checkbox that they mark that they should be contacted specifically through that channel, that's something that can be made. If not, it's something that you need to collect, and you can always do that for the future, future ones that actually select that. So people need to be aware of, and for me, to be honest, it's very important that it's not only a checkbox, that people are very aware that they're opting in. Because in terms of conversion of whatever you're doing, you don't want people to find, okay, this annoying message that I'm receiving. No, I opt in into this. I know that I opt in,
Yeah.
and it's a hotel or hotel chain that I'm loyal and I really like. I go every year or go every 2 times a year. So I want to receive information from there.
No, that makes
So
sense.
that's the difference that people need to understand. And the same thing on the part of the booking phase. So if someone is booking, but they ended up not booking, and whatever we can do with that information, people need to be very careful with that. And I'm all in favor of that, to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm really in favor of that.
it's the right way to go. You still see a lot of companies that seem to be buying lists where you wonder, did these people really opt in to you now that you've bought it? But yeah, there's still some dodgy practices out there. But
And hotels need.
I'm with you that just do it honestly and clearly, and then it's fine.
Yeah, and hotels need to run away from this. Obviously, as any other companies needs to run away from this. All these cold calls that we're receiving with a lot
Yeah,
of scams happening right now, and even scams through WhatsApp. So
yeah,
it's very important that everything is well within the guest journey. That people are aware that they opt in, and then you'll take much more value in terms of conversion rates after too, because you have a very well qualified guest database of people that really wanted to receive that message. So that means that the conversion rate will go up too.
yeah. No, that's a very good point, and I'm glad you stressed that as well. Conscious of your time, final question from me. So every time something new comes along, we had the virtual, what was it called, the metaverse or something, the other couple of years ago or something, where everyone was raving about this and people were buying land. We can all get distracted by this lovely shiny tech which promises the world. I just, to say I have a concern is maybe overplaying it, but I just worry sometimes that from a hotelier's perspective, this new shiny thing comes along, it can cause confusion. What's it all about? It can cause a distraction. Uh, and more importantly, I'm thinking from a point of view of looking into next year, 2026, when we're already starting to consider putting together our budgets, where we're going to be investing. It may even create a level of hesitation in terms of what really should I be doing? What should I be thinking about? Should I be waiting? Is this going to be the new thing I should be leaning into? Should I be changing the plans when I was looking at investing in these existing hotel tech solutions that are already in place? So with that kind of in mind as an overarching thought, what would be your message to them, to hoteliers, as they're sitting there now starting to evaluate their investment and tech budgets for 2026 and beyond?
It's funny that you make that question, because I had a client of ours that in Mauritius, at Cheney Mauritius, that was in a call yesterday, and
Okay.
he was asking for advice on a specific technology and a specific tech provider.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, first thing that I mentioned that I think is always important is that we are integrated with that tech provider. They're already our clients.
Yep.
So just putting that on the safe side of like, we already work with them, we already have clients in common, we already integrate. And he was like, okay, but what's your opinion regarding the technology? And my answer is always, in terms of ROI, how do you measure your return on investments?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, here it can be increasing revenue, decreasing costs, but you should be evaluating always the ROI of what it will bring. You have a salesperson from the other side trying always to convince you, right?
Yep.
But then in your organization, you need to understand. And one thing that I was mentioning to him yesterday was, it's very important that the people that will be using the technology are convinced too, because you
Mm-hmm.
want to have internal champions to actually implement the technology.
Yep.
As another example, at HiJiffy, we're implementing new technologies for our outbound efforts, so to contact hoteliers. And something that is fundamental for me, and one thing that we did, is we started with a trial with 2 salespeople, and now we're expanding for the rest of the sales team. So trying to do the same thing within the hotel industry, that is it happens a lot with us being contracted at HiJiffy in chains.
Yeah,
And for example, we're testing in 2 hotels and then going to various.
I've got
Or
you.
for example, for independent hotels, having a lot of channels available that HiJiffy has, I just select 1 or 2 channels that I need to focus and let's see how that goes. So having a period where I can have the team convinced into that project, putting some obviously effort, asking for effort from the provider too, and from the very beginning with a tech provider, uh, talking about or mentioning what success looks like for them,
Yep.
hopefully,
Yep.
and then putting it nearly as mandatory for the hotel tech provider to bring that to the calls. That is, okay, no, this was what I mentioned as success. This was what we agreed when we signed the contract. So that's my North Star.
Yeah.
And then I think that things can work way better. So before selecting, making sure that you have your team convinced and that you can clearly see ROI at
Hmm.
the end of
Yep.
testing. Sometimes things go wrong, and it's okay. You need to
Sure.
be open for things going wrong, but you need to be convinced by doing some assumptions that that tool will bring ROI.
That makes sense. It's kind of focusing on the why are we actually doing it? It's because there is sometimes a tendency to say, right, we need to go and invest in this. We're seeing maybe our competitors, you guys talk about the clients that you have won, your success stories. It's very easy to get caught into, okay, I should be doing something here. But it isn't always necessary. It isn't always necessarily appropriate. You have to have a clear idea as to why am I actually looking to invest in this technology? What am I trying to achieve? What is going to be the benefit of doing it? And then use that as the starting point. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because you see a lot of times people just changing something for the sake of changing it. As I say, back to our point, the new shiny thing. Let's lean into it. Let's do this. This might be the new trend. And then they end up trying to go down that route and realize that it's a waste of time, energy, possibly money at the same point as well.
Mhm. That's a question that we do a lot in calls, like obviously we love people that contact us to know more about our technology. And one question that we always do is like, why HiJiffy, or why a solution like HiJiffy? What are you looking like? What's your North Star? What you're looking to achieve?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that question is super, super important for us ourselves to qualify our clients. That is understanding, as you were mentioning, are they coming just because of a hype,
Yeah.
or they're coming because they have a true problem? And true problems could be, Tiago, we have too much phone calls. Like, I can't deal with it. The
Yeah.
phone is always ringing. We're not being able to pick up. So I do believe, like I saw a success story that you guys have, that it can reduce drastically having a chatbot on the website, and it can reduce drastically the phone calls that we receive. Or we need to communicate in WhatsApp, for example, the code to open the door of the room. It's
Yeah.
fundamental. Or we have massive queues and we already send online check-in through email, but it seems no one is opening. So we really wanted to test through WhatsApp to see if that goes up. Like, we have a very, very bad experience. We have horrible reviews around just the queue. It's not about the accommodation and the hotel
Yeah.
itself, but because of the front desk taking too long on check-ins and check-outs. So these are true pains and true problems of people already thinking about the angle and how they can solve it,
Yeah.
and they come and they talk with us.
No, that makes a lot of sense. As I say, I'm conscious of your time. I've taken more of it than I anticipated, so I really do thank you for sharing not only your time with me, but sharing your thoughts and insights and views on where we sit at the moment and where it may be going in the future. It's been very valuable. Thank you so much.